So spring has sprung. I've been away for a week or so, and I just thought I'd show you what's been going on. So this Stellata Magnolia, for the first time in quite a few years, it's actually managed to flower, and it's not been windy, it's not been rainy, so it's actually held onto its flowers. Usually it flowers and then there's some awful weather and they all drop off, but I'm delighted because it's such a pretty little thing, and yeah, it's got all its flowers on, which is lovely. So the roses are starting to flourish. Now these roses are what, about 3 foot high at the moment. I will cut them back once more, about time to cut them back now, and then I'll leave them to grow on. And then let's have a look at the flower border. I've just been sowing loads of annuals today, which I'll show you in a second, but I've got some Aubergine. Now this is self-seeded. Look at it, so excited about that. I absolutely love it. It's really kind of nestled into a little habitat there, so I'm hoping that will just continue to self-seed everywhere. There's some geraniums there, some asters that are coming up that you can see here. Now there is some Echinaceas somewhere, but I don't think, can't see, I don't think they've come up yet. They're sort of normally around this area, but I can't see them for the moment. Then I've got some poppies, obviously this huge poppy here. This is, I don't know what its name is, it's kind of like, I think a fairly common one. It's a pink, big wide pink flower. Here we've got lots of Echinaceas coming up. You can see at the bottom there's some more there. These ones are Pelida, they're quite tall and they've got a really thin flower. Aquilegia, some teasels that have self-seeded. I've got this really pretty clematis. Again, I can't remember its name, I've got it written down somewhere, but that grows up this little obelisk here. And then I've got some foxgloves and just some aquilegia. So this bit of interfill with some annuals. Likewise, next to this bee hotel there, that's the bee hotel. So with this, I belong to a company called UK Mason Bees, and you can see it usually has 3 drawers in it. And then some tubes, and basically the drawers are different size with holes in, and they're observation drawers, so they're clear at the top so you can see inside, and you send them back at the end of the year. They harvest all the cocoons for you, clean up the drawers, and then send you more cocoons, so you basically grow more and more solitary bees. So that's the hotel. And then what you're supposed to do is plant obviously quite close to, so amongst the roses here I just literally fill this with cosmos, and last year it worked really well. And there's obviously tons of, you can see that all this sort of messy stuff here. This is verbena, but if you look down closely at the bottom where it's all coming up there, there's loads of lovely shoots of Bonariensis, so that just self-seeds, and that will obviously be bee and butterfly food. So veggie wise, the bed has actually progressed. So I think last time I did a video these hadn't at all flourished, but this is all the purple sprouting broccoli now. Look at it, absolutely gorgeous colour. So that's all coming up, that's going to be on my plate soon. And then the kale, that's coming to the end, and it's now bolted, shot upwards. It's about 5 foot high, and it's coming into flower. So it's quite a good habit not to throw away not to cut down your old vegetables too soon. Let them flower, let the bees and the pollinators have their fill, and then put them on the compost. If you're seed saving, then obviously you can do that as well once they've flowered. Got some broad beans here. Now these I thought would have come on a bit more. You know, they are growing, but not by much. I think perhaps that where the sun's shining, these kale and broccoli are perhaps shading them a little bit, but we'll see. This is the garlic, that's obviously growing. Now I've got some garlic over here as well. Now this one's shop bought garlic, it's organic, but I just thought I'd give it a go, and it's actually looking healthier than the stuff in the ground, funnily enough. It's in just a trug of multi-purpose compost. So we'll see which one does best. I think this was planted out November time. But yeah, we'll see. And then in the tube are all the onions. I think I might have overdone it a little bit, but I've got red, white, spring onions, shallots, all multi-sown. We'll have a look under here. Now I sowed them February and planted them out in their modules, so they're multi-sown and multi-planted out, so you don't split them up before you plant them. And you can see it was a perfect week actually to sow them. To plant them. I probably planted them earlier than I would have done usually, but I kind of bit the bullet and got them in the ground. And actually the weather in England was amazing in Sussex last week while I was away, so they look super. And on this section here, I've just sown today some parsnips. So I've got 2 rows of parsnips going across. I don't actually eat a lot of parsnips, so I've just got a couple of rows there. Sorry, a bit boring looking at that netting. Right, let's look at the greenhouse. I've done a lot of sowing today, but when I got back from my holiday, the greenhouse had obviously been roasting because it's been lovely weather. And although it has been watered a little bit, I thought a lot of it had suffered. So essentially I stuffed everything into buckets of water or trays full of water and let everything have a good soak, and actually not too much damage. So I'm going to walk you through. So this is the rocket that we've seen before, just in flower. It's still edible, we can still eat the leaves, but it's kind of finished now. But again, rather than chop it all down, I'll leave these to flower for the insects. I mean, this rocket flower, I put a story up on my Instagram earlier, is possibly one of the prettiest flowers I have ever seen. I mean, it's so detailed, it's gorgeous. I love rocket flowers. Right, so I've potted on some cornflowers that you can see there. These are my sweet peas. Now these loved it in the hot greenhouse. They actually need to be planted out, but I haven't made a wigwam yet, so I'll have to wait. Lettuces, these ones were kind of all flopped over when I got back off holiday, but now they've had a drink, they're fine. Leftover spring onions and some Spanish onions there, and then at the back I've got borage and some cerinthe which need to be potted on. Some of these things are hardy, like the borage is hardy, and some calendula I've got under cornflowers, but I like them bigger before I put them in the ground. I think they stand a much better chance of slug attack, and I do get quite a lot of slugs here, so I just pot them on and then grow them on for a little bit before I plant them out. I've sown some leeks today, and I've also sown some more calendula. I'm obsessed with calendula, and I really want to have a really thick kind of line of it so I can basically make a lot more things with it. I know that people make soaps and balms and stuff, and I don't really do that. So this year I'm going to up my game in the sort of harvesting department. Here's a bit of a mismatch of stuff. Erigeron hasn't germinated yet, but it can be particularly difficult to germinate. I don't know whether that's actually going to make it, but it's been in there since February. It's done nothing so far. I've got some Rudbeckia, some Nicotania. I've got foxglove. So this is an example of watering on top. So the best way to water seeds when you've sown them is essentially to pre-water your compost. If you don't pre-water and you water from the top, you end up swishing all the seeds to one side. Now, I can't remember what I did with this, but you can see how they've all collected in one side, so I can only assume I just watered on the top and they all got chucked over to one side. They'll be fine, but I'm obviously going to be pricking these out at some point. But yeah, weird how they've gone on one side of that pot. I've got some Nigella and some marigolds there, and at the back over there I've got some sorrel. And then on the hotbed, now surprisingly enough, the hotbed stuff didn't suffer too much. I think because I cover quite a lot of it with plastic lids, the moisture level was quite high, and all my chilies and aubergines were fine. So this is coriander and parsley. Now I multi-sow that and I'll leave it in those pots. I'll probably plant some out in the ground, but I don't tend to split them up. I like them quite bushy like that, and I'll just keep successional sowing through the year so I have a constant supply. And then these have all been sown today. So these are, or yesterday rather, so these are tomatoes and annual flowers. So I've got 33 varieties of tomatoes there, lots of different types, and I've got some poppies, some herbs, snapdragons, I've got some salvias, gypsophila, calendula, alyssium, some morselline, lupins, more nigella. I'll just run past the tomatoes again, so for those of you that want to know the varieties, I'm not going to read them all out, but I do sell quite a lot of my stuff out the front of the house, which is why I sow so much, because any surplus goes to like an honesty box out the front of the house, which is quite sweet. So I think last time we saw these, they were pretty teeny. As I said, these have been covered with these lids. So they're just from Wilkinson's, just cheap plastic lids, but they're perfect. And they keep the moisture in, so they're obviously sat on a hotbed. But I've got the chilies, there's some aubergines here, these are looking really sweet. And lots of different types of chilies and some sweet peppers there. And then there's some celery, some dill, some celeriac, some more lettuce, and some lemongrass that I've sown. I did sow some lemongrass earlier in the year, but it didn't germinate, probably because it was too cool. So that's where we are today. This is cosmos and some zinnias. A little bit early to sow, but I'm limited on time. I'm going back to work, and I don't often have that much time to do all my sowing, so I need to stagger it. And this is on a hotbed as well. It's on an electric heated mat, so actually they should be fine, covered with fleece at night. We'll see how they go we'll see how they germinate. And then there's some more chilies here that I pricked out today, sort of leftover seed tray of borage and calendula that I need to sort out. This is beetroot that was sown in February. That actually hasn't grown as well as I would have thought. I think it dried out in the greenhouse while I was away, and it's looking a bit iffy. Not as good germination, but we'll see. I'll obviously be able to sow some more. There's some spinach. Oh, you can see here, oops, sorry, you can see here that, you know, was heat damage. Now spinach doesn't like to get too hot because it will bolt, but this will be planted outside when it's got a little bit bigger. I'll just probably give it another week or so before I plant that out, and then I'll be covering it with fleece once it goes outside. There's some calendula there. And then I just want to show you the germination of the peas. So I don't know if anybody's seen my reel, but I did a reel on how to sow peas into guttering. It's a great way to do it, and it essentially means that you don't need to do any root disturbance. What you'll do is push this compost out. So you dig a trench and you push this whole lot out in one go, without, as I said, without disturbing the roots. Ooh, broken one there. But yeah, that's germinated while I've been away, so that was nice to come back to. So there we are. That's the greenhouse today. I guess that it's really a matter of, you know, for the next few weeks I'm going to be sowing like crazy, and then it's a bit of a game of playing Tetris in the on the hotbed. Things that have germinated will come off and sit in the greenhouse to carry on growing. I guess the only things that need to stay on heat will be the chilies and the aubergines. The tomatoes, depending on what the weather is like, they'll be fine covered with fleece to grow on. So I'll see you in a couple of weeks for another update, and we'll see how things are growing.